Now let's start with something called functions. JavaScript functions are a paradigm where we can put a piece of code inside a construct called functions for the reusability of that code. So let's say we want to print hello world at, let's say, 5 places. Then rather than copying and this thing and pasting it at 5 places, we can simply create a function and put this line of code, or it can have multiple lines of code inside this function, and after that this can be called later at any point of time. And what is the meaning of calling? Meaning of calling is something like function name and followed by curly braces. We'll see that. Okay, firstly let's see the syntax. Syntax is the keyword function followed by the name of the function. So whatever name here, whatever name you can give, my function, or let's say print hello world, or whatever name you can give. It's just that it's better to give a meaningful name, and it's better to give it a camel case sort of. Even if you don't follow camel case convention, that is fine, but generally try to have the so all the rules which you follow for variable naming, you consider this also like a variable naming. So what, let's say let and some variable name is equal to, so that variable name you consider in fact if you print this thing, this will come out to be also a variable, so something will be printed which will be like function. Okay, we'll see that. Then we have a curly we have a no, parents, and then curly braces. Inside curly braces, this part is called body of the function. This body of the function can have any number of code. It can have 0 lines, no lines, 1 line, 2 line, 3 line, 10 line, 100 lines. Any number of lines of codes can be there. And when you call this function, and the meaning of calling is this function name followed by parents, right? And then if you do something like this, then this thing will be executed. Okay, now let's try that. So let's say you have a function and you call anything like my func, and then we have parents, and then we have curly braces. Inside curly braces we will write something like, let's say, hello world. Okay, and it is a string. So now this thing is there. Okay, now secondly, if I simply run this code, you see nothing will happen, nothing happened. Why? Because I have declared a function, but I have not called it. If I have not called it, then this function is declared, but this is not executed. This line, all the lines inside this is not executed. So for executing that, you have to write the name of the function and then put a parents in front of it, and when you do that, then this is going to be called, and then you see that it is going to be printed hello world. Next, it can have multiple lines also. So let's say it can have no lines. So when I comment, I have commented this line, which means nothing is there inside this. So I execute, then nothing happens because it ran, but nothing is there, so nothing ran, nothing happened. Now it's like one line is there. Now I can do let's say 100, 200. I'm printing. You see that whatever one time I called, and then you see both of these executed. Now you can definitely do a lot of things, but my point is that one time when you call it, then this all body is executed, which means that let's say you do something like log, and then you just print some hyphen 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 hyphen, something like this you print, right? And then let's say you call this function again, then you see what will happen. You see what has happened? One time it is called, and then this thing is printed, and then again this thing is printed. See, you can see, and this is why functions are very important in programming. What it does is that it allows you to have code reusability. You have created some piece of code once, and then you can reuse at multiple places. Whenever you want to call them, just call that function, and that code will, part of that whole body of that code will be executed. So this is the basic idea behind a function. Okay, next I will tell you that there is a newer syntax, and this is also equivalently another way of creating functions, and that another way is you declare it like a variable. So first, let me show you one thing. Let me show you one thing. If I so you can treat this my func as a variable. So like you create let my var is equal to 10, right? And then you can print this my var, right? And then it will give you some value 10. That is fine. 10 it gave. What if I treat this also as a variable, simply like my func, right? What will happen? So actually this, when a function is declared, whatever the name of the function is there, that is also sort of a variable. And then you, if you print that, then you see what will happen. It is saying that yes, this is a function. And obviously it is not writing the whole thing. In browsers, if you print console log this, then they will also write some body, some sort of this whole body of the function as a stringified version of that will be printed. And sometimes it will be printed in small way, but that is not the point. See, nobody will print it something like this. I just wanted to show you that this thing is a value, which means that when you print, then you are printing a function. Now what is the meaning of printing a function? Just any representation, just to show you in the console that you have printed something called a function. So it is here, it is just trying to show you that a function, this is a function called my name, with name my func. That is fine. Okay. Now let's say I try to so any variable, so you treat it like a variable, right? So any variable you can take type of, we know that, right? Let's see the type of this variable, this function name, right? Then let's see what happens. You see that this is a new type, right? So earlier we saw different types, string and number and boolean. Now you understand that now we are learning a new type function. If you take type of, then its type will come function. Now this thing is a string again, remind you. So if you want to test it, then just do a triple equal to with function. Since function is a string, and you do triple equal to, and then it is true, which means that this thing is actually giving you a string function. Okay. In fact, we know that type of always returns a string. Okay, that is one part. I was going to tell you another thing, that now we have seen actually that yeah, this is a variable only. So there is another syntax to create function, which is called arrow function. So you do something like const and then is equal to and then arrow, understand, and put a semicolon here. So you see what has happened. See, like any variable, like you can do let also here, that is fine. But like any variable, you do let or const and then name of the function, whatever, is equal to, and then in right side, like you write 10, 20, 100, like you create. Now similarly, like this is what this is called literal. This is called literal. Literal means uh, some primitive value in that programming language, that is called literal. So here 10 is a literal. Similarly, this thing is a function literal. Okay, so basically this is like inline way of creating function. So this, you can understand that this part is a function having no name, anonymous function, and then I am assigning that function to some variable. So now my function has become now this variable has become a function which is having the behavior of this thing. And what is the behavior of this thing? And you understand the syntax is that whatever in function you have curly parents, so similarly you have parents, but after, but there was no arrow, but here there is arrow, and after that curly braces, after that everything is same. Okay. Just one small difference is that function is like a just block, like a function block. So here there is no semicolon, but this is actually a statement. This is a statement which is assigning this function to this variable. And since this is a statement, then it is good practice to put a semicolon, but you don't put semicolon here, right? Here it does not make sense to add semicolon, because this is not a statement, this is a function declaration. But here this function has been body has been assigned to this variable, so this is a statement, and that's why semicolon we are writing. Once we have done that, after that everything is same. You see, we have already seen that again type of this and this, again if you print simply this thing, this will be same, uh, same function, you see, type of function, not, and most importantly it will be called in a similar manner. So if I call simply that my function, then you see that this thing is called, and if I call it twice, then I see that it will be called twice, okay, or thrice, whatever you want to call. So you understand that this syntax and earlier syntax is different, but behavior is exactly same. Behavior is exactly same, that we are trying to declare a function and have a variable which behaves as the reference point for calling that function. So that is what we are doing in both the cases. Here the syntax is different, function keyword followed by name of the function and then like this, parents and curly braces. Here like a statement, okay. So that is the only difference. Okay, now let's come back to something called function closer. So you see that this function is there, it is fine, but you know what, here everything is like inside this. Can we have this let's say 100 200 outside, which means that can I have something like let x y z or any variable a b c or a is equal to 100 and use that variable inside? Can I do that? Let's try that. No need to print twice, just print once and run it. You see that it works exactly the same, which means that this is what I'm trying to write here, is that the function can access variables enclosed in its surrounding state. This function's surrounding state has a variable called xyz, and that's why you can access that variable, outside variable, inside also this function, okay. And any number of variables, all the variables you can access inside this, and that is what that concept is called closure. Closure has a few more things, like we will see that in more detail later, but for now just understand like this, which means that you have a variable. Here I took a number, you can have another variable which is like a string, and then you can use that variable anyways. Like here I am like printing the same variable, like you can use it for interpolation or anything, right? Again you have to call it. If you simply do this much, then nothing will happen. You have to call it, then only function will execute. That is obvious, right? Okay, second thing is, not only you can use it, you can modify it also, okay. So first thing we will see that, yeah, something like this you are able to do, but apart from that, if you are using this, if you are changing this at a later point of time, let's say I do my function and then I change xyz to 200, let's just print xyz, okay, and then I change xyz to 200, and then I again print it. So you understand that if I don't change it, then it will be 100, right? But you see that if I changed it, then after that if I print, then it is 100 200. You see what is happening. This function body is, even if it is defined above, I have changed it below, but then when this function is being called, then it goes here, but it sees that at this point of time, what is the value of this xyz. I know that xyz was initialized with 100, that is fine, but you know, before calling second time I have changed the value. So this, whatever memory location is there in the computer, that memory location now contains 200, not 100, and that is visible as 200 by this function, and that's why the second time when you are printing, it is 200. That is the first type of change which I am saying. Second type of change is, not only you can do here, actually you can do this thing here only, and that thing will also work, you see. But the difference is that even the first time when it is called, then also it was executed. So if you want on not first time, second time, then what you can do, you can do it after console log. So what will happen? First time 100 printed, then first time when the whole body executed, when this function finished, then both of these lines executed, then it is like xyz is equal to 200, right? and then after that, when the second time it was called, then already the variable is 200, and after that again you are assigning 200. That is fine, that is fine. But this thing is 100 200 because of that. And now you can understand that rather than doing this, you could have done let's say xyz plus 100. Okay, then also the answer will be same. But what is the difference now? The difference now is that first time it was 100 printed, second time it became 200. 100 plus 100, 200. Now when the second time it is called, then obviously now it is 200, but this time xyz is again increased, which means 200 plus 100, which is 300, which means that if you print here console log xyz, then this thing will be 300. Understand? Okay. And in that matter you can understand that yeah, I can have any variable, let's say xyz, and then I can I can just let's say, let's do something like this. Let's do a simple thing which we know, pre increment. Okay, we do something like this, and then we see that 101 102 it is printed, right? And that matter, for that matter, anytime you execute it, how many times, every time it will be keep on increasing, which means that I'm trying to show you the point that not only you can access the outside variables, you can also change it, and that change will be reflected, outside also, which means that here if let's say you are printing console log and let's say some you are printing xyz, which means that whatever you are changing, that is, you can understand, 101 102 103, that 103 is outside also, which means that if you print here as xyz, then it will be 106. Anything which you are changing, if the variable is from outside, then that thing is available outside also, which is not the case if you declare a new variable inside the function. This is the first time I'm saying that you can declare also a new variable obviously inside. So let's say abc, right, and abc is equal to 10. Now if you print abc here, then now this abc has nothing to do with xyz. In fact, you can print xyz outside, but you cannot print abc outside, because this is what one time we discussed about the scope of the variable. See, this is curly braces, this is curly braces. The scope of this variable will be only inside this block, which is the function block, right? Which means that when you call myfunc, then this 10 is printed, but it is only inside this. If you again try to print abc here, then you see what will happen. It is saying that okay, abc is not defined. abc is not defined, error it is giving. Why? Because abc was only available in this context. Now you are outside here, like okay, this is like different different scope, the word which we used, right? Now in outside scope there is no abc. If abc would have been declared here after xyz, then it is fine, right? But here it is not accessible. Now one more thing, this I have not discussed right now, we will come back to it later, that you can have another variable outside also. So let's say this is 500, then it is fine, it will work fine, but you see that inside will be still 10, because when you declare abc outside and when you again declare it inside, then it sees the variable which is in closest scope. Its closest scope has this variable abc, and if you don't have it, let's comment this, if you don't have this, then it will take this outside one. So you see now, however, this is called scoping and variable shadowing, which will come in detail later. Okay, anyways, so this is what I was saying, that not only you can access, you can modify also. Okay, next we are going to see some arguments which you can pass to these functions. We'll see that in the next video.